Welcome to
I'm
Double
ready,
Axe Handle
man.
Smash Podcast. I am your host, Johnny O, and along with,
Jasho.
and we are here today with a very special guest joining us from the Colorado Mountains, Mr. Scott Wolter. Anybody who knows Scott Wolter, he is a forensic geologist. A very, very fancy name, eh, Scott? Scott.
Yeah, a forensic geologist, but it's actually quite appropriate. It's appropriate.
How do you become a forensic geologist? Like how did you end up wanting to do that? And
Well, I don't know if I necessarily wanted to do that because I didn't know what a forensic geologist was when I first got out of college with a degree in geology. I ended up working for a testing lab, place called Twin City Testing back in May of 1985. And so when I first started working there, there were some pretty insightful engineers. They were actually engineers that saw a future in diagnosing problems with concrete, like low strength, cracking, flash set, whatever the case may be, but problems that they have with concrete. And of course, when something goes bad with concrete, first thing they want to know is what happened and whose fault is it, right? So so what we would do is we would use microscopic analysis to try to determine, what caused a particular problem. And then, of course, they want to know whose fault it is, who's responsible, who's going to pay. And so that involves litigation and expert witness testimony, which I've done many times over the years. And I did that for 4.5 years for Twin City Testing. And then in January of 1990, I started my own firm called American Petrographic Services. And that was what, 36 years ago now? So we've been doing this for a total of, this is our 41st year. But basically, it's material forensics primarily on concrete and rock.
Well, actually, for our listeners, what exactly does a forensic geologist do?
So what do we do?
Yeah,
We
what is forensic geology?
Well, forensic geology is basically trying to perform laboratory techniques to diagnose why a particular problem happened, either with concrete or with rock or, you know, inorganic materials. We don't work with forensic work on dead bodies, although I have done that, but primarily inorganic materials like concrete and rock, trying to solve problems.
Excellent.
so for what you do, and as a relation to this podcast about retro '80s movies and '80s cartoons and comic books and wrestling, what how does that compare to Indiana Jones? I know he's an archaeologist, but have you ever been compared to Indiana Jones before?
Jesus. Hell yes, man. Um, Many times. In fact, I think you and I had a conversation where I told you that when I first was, they greenlit America Unearthed. They wanted me to wear a fedora hat like Indiana Jones, and I said, "Fuck that! I'm not doing it." So, yeah, and yes, I do get the comparison quite a bit, but I'm a geologist. I'm not an archaeologist, and I think, people don't understand that there is quite a difference between the two. We both dig in the dirt, but archaeology is a humanities discipline science, and a lot of archaeologists don't like me to say this, but it's a soft science discipline. Geology is a hard science discipline. So even though they sound like they're similar, they're actually quite different.
Okay. Well, I got to tell you, watching a lot of your things, there have been episodes I've watched where I kind of was hoping you would have some way to defend yourself, because a few of those episodes, I just felt you were putting yourself in danger. So, but
Well, there were a few episodes where things got dicey. The one that comes to mind is the episode we did in Wisconsin, the Rock Lake episode when I went down in that mini submarine.
Yep.
I literally almost drowned. It wasn't when we were filming, it was when I was being taught how to navigate this thing because it's a single person sub. But the problem with the thing is the only way you can get out of it is somebody has to undo the latches in the bubble that I was sitting in. And when I went in there, they didn't give me the proper training. And what happened was there were certain levers that I had to turn to let water in or let air out and let water in. And it turned out that one of the levers was behind my back. And when I was moving inside of it, I was opening this lever that was allowing the air to go out and water to come in that wasn't supposed to. And all of a sudden, it just went like this, boom, to the bottom of the lake. Now, it was maybe only 10 feet deep, but you could drown if you're only an inch below the surface, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember the whole thing filled up, and it just went blah, 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 blah. And next thing I know, I'm sitting here like this underwater, and I had to wait for the water to completely, immerse me so I could see. But you know what it's like when you open your eyes underwater, and all I could see out the plexiglass was weeds. I was at the bottom, and I reached around, I fumbled around, and I found a regulator because they had an emergency air tank with a regulator, and I got the air, but I didn't know how to get out. Now, that was the one that I was using to breathe, when I was out in the lake. But they had an emergency one, and I found that one, and I just free floated. I just pressed the button, and it filled up the bubble with air and brought me to the surface, and I limped to shore, and then they let me out. And the guy goes, "What happened?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what happened." And he looked behind and he said, "That valve turned." I said, "The valve you never told me anything about?" I was so pissed off. And
I bet.
well, I'd be
Janet
a little
was
pissed if
off.
I nearly died.
And anyway, so there was this big meeting with the production company. They called the network and they said, "If you don't want to go back in that thing, we'll just shut it off right here." I said, "Well, now I know how to use it." I said, "Let's do it." So we did the shoot and everything was cool. But yeah, that was literally, and when it was filling up with water, I'm an experienced diver and I've been through some hairy stuff. I've been a diver since I was 15. I didn't panic. I just said, okay, it's got to fill up, so I'll wait. And then I found, the regulator and the air, but it was touch and go there. It really was.
And how many years ago was that?
Oh, geez. 14 years ago?
Wow.
I think it was maybe 13 years ago, 2013, something like that.
For the show that you have filmed and the documentary specials and stuff, do you have to stay in shape, or you make sure you stay in shape for all that? Like, it must draw on your body, some of the stuff and places you've been to.
Dude. Well, you know what? I've been an athlete all my life. I went to college on a football scholarship. I played 4 years of college ball, and then I played 4 years of minor league ball when I into my crazy shit that we went through with those guys. And I played touch football for 35 years. I still play basketball for 30 years. I still play softball. I've always kept myself in shape because at a very young age, I knew that there was nothing I could do about external factors, right? But I never smoked. I drink in moderation, and I take care of myself because I have control over that. So I didn't really think about it when I was doing the show. There was a lot of physical stuff I had to do, but I'm like, let's go, you know?
Well, while we're actually talking
I'm
about
still that way.
while we're talking
Let's
about
go,
it,
man.
how did you get on TV?
Well, you know what? It all started with the Kensington Runestone, which came into our materials forensic lab back in the fall or in July of 2000. And I never heard of the damn thing. You know, you got to remember, I had this, that wasn't my world. That wasn't my jam. But I'll tell you this, if I want to learn about something, I'll do it. And anyway, so this guy approached me who was representing the Runestone Museum and said, "We'd like you to do an analysis on the runestone." I had no idea what he was talking about. He started to explain what it was, and it was pretty obvious that he was an advocate for the stone. And I said, "Look, pal," I said, in my world, I said, "I'll do this analysis for you, but you got to be prepared that when I come back, I may give you news you're not going to like, and you're still going to pay me." That's the beautiful thing. It doesn't matter what the results are. I get paid either way. So I don't have a horse in the race. So anyway, I did a tombstone study. I concluded that the weathering of the inscription was hundreds of years old, therefore it had to be genuine. And that's when all the trouble started. I didn't realize it, but I was treading on a sacred historical paradigm. Nobody was here before Columbus in 1492. Kensington Runestone is dated 1362. That's 130 years earlier, and that's in the center of the continent. That's impossible. And I'm listening to people say this to me, and I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, the rock told me that it was real. I trust rocks. I don't trust some people. People have agendas. Rocks don't give a shit. They just are. And so I just heard all this flack I was getting, and it kind of pissed me off. No, it did piss me off a lot. And so what I ended up doing is, because the language on the runestone is Old Swedish, and because it was genuine, because the rock said so, that means that everything in that inscription must be consistent with the 14th century. So I went to Sweden 5 times between 2003 and 2005 and found everything that the scholars said didn't exist. And of course, that just pissed him off even more. So that was how I first got into this world, and I just kept working on it, went to the Templars, and everything started to take off. And what happened was, there was a woman who was a investigative reporter who worked for a local television station that wanted to interview me about a murder case that we worked on. And when she came into my office, she saw a poster that I had put up in my office that was promoting a debate that I was part of when I was in Sweden. And I had just gotten back from Sweden. This is 2005. And she looks at it and she goes, "Oh, have you done some work on the Kensington Runestone?" And I went, sit down. And I told her. And so it turns out that her husband was starting a production company. And she went home and told him the story. And so he called me and he said, "Hey, man, I'd like to talk to you about this." And I said, "Well, I'm giving a lecture at the local library Saturday. Come on and I'll tell you the whole story." So he came to the lecture, and then he invited me to lunch, and he said, "This would make a great documentary, but we need to raise $150,000 so we can shoot this thing, and then we'll pitch it, to the networks." I'm like, 150 grand? I don't have that in my pocket. So I went out and I begged, borrowed, and stole from people. I didn't steal, but we raised the money. But nobody put in a bigger check than Janet and I. So we got the money, and then Andy and I, Bo Hakala, and Ben Kruger flew over to Europe, and we went to these key places that I said are important in the story in the runestone. They put together a 4.5 minute trailer. They pitched it at Real Screen, and 6 networks wanted it. But History Channel paid the most, so we went with them, and that became Holy Grail in America, and it did phenomenal. So they made another documentary called Who Really Discovered America? And by this time, I'm looking at other artifacts, and I'm learning about all this other stuff, and that did well. So then they decided they were going to pitch a series. And they asked me, is there enough material for a series? I said, oh my God, absolutely. So they pitched America Unearthed, it got picked up. That's how it started.
That's have you ever like thought about like your life before TV and then life now, like becoming a public
Oh yeah.
figure? Was that like a hard transition, or was it like, I mean, did people
Oh, you
recognize you
know
still
what?
today?
Oh yeah, yeah, that happens. You know, it's funny you say that because I remember the first shoot we were on, and I'm working with Ben now. I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything, but um, we'll probably have an announcement of something here in the very near future. But anyway, I'll give you a clue. I've been shooting with Ben again.
Oh, good.
And
I
but I
can't wait.
remember the very first shoot that we were on in 2012, and this was and the no, it was the final shoot. The day we shot the last shoot of that first season was the night that the show premiered. And Ben looked at me and he said, "Your life's never going to be the same, dude." And I said, "Oh, it'll be the same." No, no, and that, he was right. But you know what? For the most part, it's been wonderful. And it's great when people, stop me and say, hey, I really enjoyed your show. It's nice to meet you and all that. That's wonderful. But then you get some jackwagons like on the internet that get on and they attack you and they attack the work you're doing. And most of it's out of context. Most of it is flat out wrong. But that's just how some people are. And that sucks. I don't like that kind of shit. But you know what? It comes and goes with the territory. And I tell people, even though I consider myself a D-level celebrity, I'm not being facetious. And I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that. I don't want to be any more famous. I just tell people, look, you want to be on TV, you want to be famous, careful what you wish for because you might get it. Because there is a downside. But by and large, it's been wonderful, and people are usually pretty cool.
What do you think the biggest misconception about you is and what you do?
Um, you know what? To be honest with you, most people I think have a pretty good idea of who I am because what you see is what you get. I'm not an actor for God's sakes. Shit, I play me. This is who I am. So I think you either like me or you don't. I mean, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But I do think that there are some people that think that I have an agenda. The only agenda I have is truth, man. That's what I do for a living. It's no different whether I'm looking at a concrete problem or a historical artifact or whatever. The process of investigation is the same. Facts, interpretations, and if you have enough evidence, you draw a conclusion.
Right.
And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't go people's way. I've called out bullshit many times. I've had people accuse me, oh, everything you see is real. Well, obviously you haven't paid close enough attention because that's not the case. If the evidence isn't there, I'll also say those three little words that no scientist likes to say. But if it's appropriate, you've got to say them. I don't know. And I say that too. So, I just call it as I see it. And you know what? Some people like me, some people don't. But I'm not trying to, I just me. I'm just being me and take it or leave it.
Well, we like you.
Yeah. No, and I like that that you will call out bullshit.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank
Like
you.
in one of the Templar episodes, like you recognized one of the artifacts you were brought out to recognize or to identify as fake, and you called it out, and you called
Yeah.
the people out for doing it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
enjoy. I
I know
like
what
that.
I know what episode you're talking about.
Yeah. So, but what's the discovery you've made that you're the most proud of?
Well, the runestone, I'd have to say. Yeah, I don't think there's any question that if I had to pick one, it would be the Kensington runestone because really, I mean, I'll be perfectly frank with you. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is simple fact. And I think now, today, with the realization of how fucking crazy the world is, And I say that in all sincerity, and you guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, the Epstein files, the way, the billionaires, the tech bros that are running the world and tracking every move we make. It's true. And you got to believe it. And our freedoms are being taken away. And as a Freemason and a Knights Templar, it offends me greatly. But that's why, now more than ever, the truth is so important because there's so much bullshit out there, misinformation, disinformation. And I've had people accuse me of doing that. And I'm like, look, full stop. You will never get that from me. I will always tell you the truth. And I'll say if I don't know, I don't try to be all things to all people, but I just can't stand the lying. I can't stand the bullshit. And there's so much of it now. But the world has changed. And so I think now when I say things like the Kensington Runestone is being suppressed, there's no question. And I'll give you evidence. I'll give you an example, okay? If you go on, well, first let me say this. I'm going to preface what I'm about to say. Right now, at this moment in time, as we're talking, there is nobody in the entire world that knows about all aspects of the Kensington Runestone. The language, the runes, the dialect, the grammar, the geology, the history of the late 19th century when it was discovered, the medieval history, the modern history today, all aspects of the Kensington Runestone. There's nobody that knows more about it than the guy you're talking to right now. And that's not bragging, it's just a simple fact, okay? I've written 6 books that are all or in part about various aspects of the evidence of the Kensington Runestone, including the first book we wrote, Compelling New Evidence, the Kensington Runestone, which is 574 pages, which absolutely solves it, okay? That said, if you Google Kensington Runestone right now, the first thing that will come up is Wikipedia. If you read the Wikipedia page, you will not see my name. You will not see any of my research. You will not see any of my books referenced. Okay? That's a fact. Now, you will see one book that's referenced that was written by a scholar. Her name is Alice Beck Kehoe. She is a retired professor of archaeology from the University of Wisconsin at Madison, who wrote a book a year after we published our first book, that 574-page book. Her book is called Examining a Research Question Holistically, the Kensington Runestone. And in that book, she concludes that in our book, we solved the mystery and that it's absolutely genuine. Now, the stupid shits at Wikipedia obviously did not read her book, because if they did, they wouldn't have published it. But they have her book that talks about our book, that says we solved it, but they don't have the book that she's talking about. Now, you're probably saying, that's crazy. Why is that crazy? I'll tell you why it's crazy. And it gets back to what I said initially about how the world is being run by people like the Roman Catholic Church. Did you know the primary funder behind Wikipedia is the Roman Catholic Church?
I didn't know.
You didn't,
Wow.
did you?
No.
You know now.
Yeah.
Now, why don't they want the Kensington Runestone to be considered authentic? I'll tell you why. Because I know exactly what will happen. It triggers a series of dominoes to fall. And those dominoes go to some inconvenient places for the Roman Catholic Church. Like, let me ask you guys something. Have you ever heard of the Telpiat tomb?
No.
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 Doesn't surprise me at all, on one hand, but on the other hand, it's freaking crazy. Every person in the world should know this. This is being suppressed. That is why the runestone is being suppressed, because the runestone led me straight to the Telpiat tomb. Do you want to know what the Telpiat tomb is?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. And if you want to Google it while I'm telling you, you'll see, and you can verify this. In 1980, there was construction going on in the East Telpia neighborhood in southern Jerusalem. And then when they were blasting the hillside in preparation for putting in the concrete foundations, they discovered a first century underground tomb. Now in Jerusalem, this is not unusual, it's not common, but there have been a number of these tombs that were found, that have been found over the centuries in southern Jerusalem, in Jerusalem. Now, they know these things date to the first century because the tradition that practiced this underground burial practice was called the Essene. You probably heard of Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And John the Baptist and Mary Magdalene and the Essenic tradition.
Yep.
These guys practiced this burial practice, and when the Romans crushed the Jews and the Essene in 70 AD, that practice was over. That's why when they find them, they know they date to the first century. Nobody questions that, okay? Now, in this tomb, they found 10 ossuaries. Do you know what an ossuary is?
Nope.
No.
Okay, let me explain. So, these underground tombs are comprised of two chambers. One is a burial chamber, and then there's a doorway that goes to an antechamber that it's connected to. The antechamber is open to the southern sky, so they can perform rituals that are open to the sky at night. Now, when somebody died, only the family members could process the body of the deceased. Remember, this is the Essenic tradition. And what they would do is bring him into the antechamber, and they would perform rituals. They would anoint the body with perfumes and oils. Then they would wrap it in a shroud, carry it into the burial chamber, and put it on a bench that was cut into one of the walls of the chamber. They would leave the body there for 1 to 2 years. Then they would collect the body, bring it back to the antechamber, and they would have the bones. And they would put them inside these bone boxes that are only big enough so that the two largest bones in the body, the femurs, would fit in crossed, the skull would go in last, and now you know the origin of the skull and crossbones symbol.
Oh,
wow.
Wow.
Yes. Then they would take the box and usually inscribe something on the side like the name of the person, sometimes on the lid. Sometimes they would be adorned with beautiful symbols, like the flower of life is a very common symbol. Then they would take the box with the bones, go into the burial chamber, and in the corners, they would dig, there were tunnels, and they would put the boxes in there, and that's where you would be interred in the family tomb in perpetuity. Now you know the ossuary culture burial practice, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is Jesus and Mary Magdalene and John the Baptist, that tradition. Okay. In this tomb, they found 10 ossuaries, 7 inscribed with names, 6 in Aramaic, 1 in Greek. Names like Yeshua, Jesus, son of Joseph, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus, Joseph, Matthew, Maria, Judah, son of Jesus. And the 7th ossuary, inscribed in Greek, said Mariamne the Mara. Mariamne is a pet name for only Mary Magdalene found in the Acts of Philip. The Mara is a title of honor, as in Lord, Master, or Queen. Now, there's about 3,000 to 4,000 ossuaries that have been collected in underground tombs in Jerusalem over the centuries. Only 6 have the title of the Mara. 3 are male, 3 are female. Now, these are just facts. Okay, what I just told you, this is documented. It's factual. You can look it up. There's no spin here. Okay. On the lid of the Jesus ossuary, there is a symbol. The Telpia tomb researchers reached out to me and said, "Can you help us with this symbol?" They said they thought it was a star symbol that traced back to some old Jewish story. I wrote back to them and I said, guys, that's not a star symbol. That's a monogram of two symbols. The hooked X.
Wow.
My hooked X. That's on the Kensington runestone 22 times.
Wow.
And the Tau cross. Now hold on. The hooked X is a straight line stonemason's version of the Hebrew Aleph, which is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet, which in Hebrew mysticism is the first letter and is a symbol referencing deity, a shared purpose, an interconnectedness. First letter in the Hebrew alphabet. The Tau cross is the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Alpha, omega, beginning and end in a monogram symbol. Who said that? Jesus, right? On his ossuary.
Wow.
I wrote back to these guys and I explained it to them and they all agreed with me. Now, why doesn't the world know this? Now you know.
Because they hide it.
It's being suppressed
Yep.
by the Roman Church, who, by the way, you know who is the primary funder of the Smithsonian Institution? The Roman Catholic Church. So when I say that there's information being suppressed, people called me a conspiracy theorist years ago, but they're not saying that anymore because now we're starting to understand who's really running the world and where all that money's coming from and who's pulling the strings. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Sad, but sadly, that's the truth. But I'll tell you what, all this shit's going to come down. The Epstein files are going to come out. Trump, the Democrats, the Republicans, all these shitheads that were part of that awful shit. And I don't care what party you are, you need to go to jail right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially the stuff they're doing with kids.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I don't pull punches, man. I don't tolerate that shit. I've got 4 grandchildren. You guys know how it works. You F with me, you're done.
Yep.
You F with my kids, you are done.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So, I mean, I hope you're taking what I'm saying in its proper context.
Oh, absolutely.
No, I totally
Absolutely.
understand. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Do you
I told you I wouldn't pull any punches.
No, I appreciate
I
it.
like that. Do you just a follow-up question on that? The recently I've been watching a lot of videos on what you have on your YouTube content, the Yahshua scroll. Can you
Yeshua
quickly
scrolls, yep.
Can you explain and talk about that? And is that related at all
Yeah.
to what we're? I
Of
mean,
course.
You said Yahshua
Absolutely.
means Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I find that funny, and I'm segueing off for a sec. I'll come back and tell you that whole
Yep.
story. But, I find it funny that, 90% of, probably more than that, of Roman people that call themselves Roman Christians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Catholics. They don't even know what his real name is. Jesus was not his name. And I find that incredible. Hang on one sec. I have to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'll just text him. That's the guy that does those videos. I'm just going to say one quick thing. I apologize.
Tell him we said hi.
Yeah.
I'll get it in a second.
Yeah. Tell him we said hello.
Anyway.
How's the family?
Oh yeah, it's where's Beckett? Let me just.
It's
quickly-
fine. If I have to edit it out, it's fine.
Yeah, if you got to do it.
We
here,
could just make and tease you though about it.
I'm doing a podcast, dude. I'll call you when I'm done.
I might leave
All
that
right,
in there.
we go. It is an important call. Okay, you know what? In the interest of full disclosure, because you were so patient with that, he and our production company that Ben works for, Ben Kruger, are negotiating a deal for this new show. So before he can talk to somebody, he needs to talk to me, and that's what that was about.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
he's been traveling, I've been traveling. So I just told him I'll get back to him. But we're gonna hopefully have a big announcement very soon.
Oh,
That's
that's
awesome.
awesome.
I hope.
It's unfolding as we speak, right?
Ooh, we're seeing this in real time. This is sweet.
Yeah, baby.
So,
Okay,
the
yes, you
Ashua
are.
scroll. You found it, or
Okay.
somebody else found it?
Well, no, I pulled it out of the ground, but I was with other people. In fact, where I'm staying right now, two of the three people, we're at their house right now. That's who we're staying with.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, and the story goes is a long convoluted story, but the information that we got came from the Templar tradition. And basically, you need to understand that the Templars, phone's ringing again. The Templar tradition would update their records over the centuries. And they would, continue mapping areas. They would have additional documents. They would have letters. And they encrypted everything. The last update that we know of was 1908. And that material was purchased by the best friend of one of my good friends, who's now 83 years old and was involved in doing things for our government in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that I frankly can't even talk about. I know about them because I've read the reports. He shared that information with me. But his best friend purchased this Templar document. In 1994, he realized he was dying. He was a medical doctor himself, but he realized he was dying of arterial sclerosis and Parkinson's disease. So he sold the document to the Vatican. Now, before you get upset, what we realized is he didn't give them the good stuff. And in fact, what he gave them, he made it look like he was missing the first page. He gave that first page to his daughter with strict instructions to give this material to Don, my buddy. And he did that in 2017. That particular first page of the document that he sold had the cipher phrase to decode that page. Without it, it's worthless. So the document he sold to the Vatican was worthless. And later on, we got a completely deciphered copy from Bill posthumously with his analysis. Over the course of the last almost 10 years now, we have had probably 6 or 7 people that he worked with that Bill had deciphered or had disseminated to his colleagues in the agency with strict instructions. Upon their deaths, this material would go to Don Rue. It was a smart strategy that he learned from the Templars because nobody would ever put all their eggs in one basket, right? Like when the Templars came over, they didn't put all their treasure on Oak Island like some dumbass thing, like they want you to believe on that show. They put them in multiple places, and Bill disseminated his material amongst several people.
Yeah.
But it all ended up with Don and me, because Don and I signed a contract 10 years ago. We've been working together ever since.
Yeah.
Now, a year ago, I was giving a lecture at a conference, the Cosmic Summit, that I met this guy at the first Cosmic Summit 3 years ago, the guy that just called that I got to call back, Beckett Fusick. Great guy. Young guy, he's only 25. I think he's going to be 26 pretty soon. Sharp as hell. Anyway, I was at Cosmic Summit. I was giving a lecture. Don literally called me while I was on stage. I didn't get the message until after I got done. So I checked my message, and he said, McMaster's died. I'm meeting his estate attorney, and he left something for me. It came from Bill. And so he went and picked the stuff up. A couple of weeks later, I drove out to New York where he lives, and we got the stuff. One was a map The other one was an encrypted messages. And the map was enough based on background information that we had from previous material. We knew where to go. So in August, early August, we flew out to New York, drove up into the Adirondack Mountains, rented a float plane because where this place was is way the hell. There's no roads, no houses, no cabins, no nothing. There's islands on the lake, but the scroll had been moved from one of the islands to the mainland. The guy dropped us off on the float plane. He brings in fishermen there, and he has canoes tucked in the woods. So he got us 2 canoes. We paddled over to the boulders. I paced off 138 feet, started metal detecting. Got a hit. This was all filmed by my friends.
Now, what state was this in?
New York.
New York. Okay. Yeah.
Upstate New York. If you've never been to upstate New York, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's every bit as beautiful as northern Minnesota where I live. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. And it's remote, let me tell you. Everybody probably thinks of Manhattan, but I tell you what, it doesn't take long traveling north. All of a sudden, you're in the boonies. New York is a beautiful state. It really is. Anyway, so I paced off 138 feet. I started metal detecting. I got a hit. I peed myself a little bit. I was so excited. I started digging, and I got this aluminum cooking vessel that was basically buried garbage. Shit. So now 138 feet is really not that far, but I was following a particular azimuth that was on the map. And so what we did is we moved over a little bit, still at 138 feet, but we just arced off a little bit, started metal detecting again, got another hit. Dug it up this time. It was about a 1950s era Coke can that was riddled with bullet holes. More garbage. So we moved over a little bit further to where there was this old stump, and it was covered in moss, and it was big. I mean, it was probably 2-3 feet in diameter. That was a big tree. Started metal detecting on the south side of it. Got a hit. So I start digging, and I pulled up a camping nail that was 7 inches long, aluminum. I'm like, ah, shit. But that wasn't garbage. And I thought, well, maybe somebody lost it, or maybe not. Started metal detecting a little bit closer to the tree, like right up against the tree, got another hit. So I start digging again, and now I'm getting into natural soils like glacial till, sand and gravel. And I'm like literally going under the stump. And I pulled out a few rocks, and then I dug a little more, and I reached in, and I pulled it out, and I'm holding it like this. It happened so fast, and there was this green jar with a tin can on top. That's what was getting the metal detector hit. Huh. And I'm just like, holy shit. And, you know, I remember when I pulled it out, there was a part of me that went, no way, this can't be it. But in my heart, I knew it was it.
Were you filming
So
during this?
we filmed the whole thing.
Yeah.
Everything. Every second. In
Yeah.
fact, when I pulled it out and I'm holding it like this, I go, Sherry, Doug, are you guys rolling? They go, yeah, we're rolling. I said, okay, you know.
Good.
And I mean, it's really good. It's great video. Anyway, so then we sat down on the stump, and I took the top off and I started looking at it. It was filled with sand. And so I had, you know, I had Trusty, my backpack with me, the one I used on the show. I use it in real life. And I had all kinds of different size sample bags I always have with me. I pulled out the biggest one. I poured out the sand. The scroll went in, and what looked like a bunch of coins. But I didn't mess with the coins. I pulled out the scroll. And it was wrapped in a beautiful placemat, designer placemat with a string. I took that off, and then it was all rolled up, and then I started to unravel it, and I knew right away this was it. And it's not like a short message. It's long. It's very long. And it's comprised in multiple parts with different encryption methods. It took us, after that, it was only 10:30. We had to paddle over to one of the islands to get up high enough to get a signal. We called the guy back because he wasn't going to come until 1:30 or 2 o'clock. And we had this thing at 10:30. So we wanted to get working on it. So we flew back, and I immediately went to a hardware store to put the paper between plexiglass so we could read it and preserve it. We did that, and we started deciphering. Then we went down to Poughkeepsie. No, first we went down and saw Don. I made copies for Don, and then we went to a hotel, and all of us started deciphering. It took us 2 days. We did not leave the hotel the first night. And we ordered pizza to be delivered, and it took that long to decipher it, but we finally got it all done. And it's amazing. And all I can say is this: the message is extremely controversial. People that are Roman Christians are not going to like it. But this is reportedly Jesus talking in the first person after his death, which begs the question, how the hell do you do that? Well, the answer is, I don't know. But I will say, well, let me say one more thing. The message is extremely controversial. I get that. And I want people to understand that we found it, we deciphered it, and I read the message. This is what it says. This isn't me being an advocate for the message. I don't even know if it's authentic or if it's real. I can't say. But that said, so don't attack me for trying to put forth some agenda. I don't have an agenda other than truth. This is the message. This is what it says. You decide what it means to you, okay? I'm not pushing anything. That said, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. And I will say that as a Templar who's been initiated into 3 different Templar orders, some Masonic, some non-Masonic, what he says in there is consistent with Gnostic teachings that I have been taught. Now, that doesn't mean that it's right, doesn't mean that it's wrong. All I'm saying is it's consistent with those Gnostic teachings. And personally, I've had people ask me, what do you think of the Jesus that's in the scroll? What do you think of that guy? Well, I can go back and tell you that when I grew up and went to high school in the 70s, I knew a lot of people that I called Jesus freaks. That's what we used to call people that would cross the line and try to proselytize, right? And convert you. And I used to get in their kitchen and say, don't bring that shit to me because I don't believe any of it. I'm just saying. Doesn't mean I'm right. My dad was a Freemason. There was no religion in our house. We never went to church. I always thought if Jesus came back and saw how these people acted, he'd go, what the hell? But over time, my feelings about Jesus have changed. And boy, when the scroll came, if it's real, this is a dude I'd like to sit down and have a couple beers with. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. And for more on the Yahshua scroll, you could go to Scott's YouTube channel. And
Yeah.
is there some other social medias and stuff you want to talk about?
Yeah, please do all your promotions right now.
I want to say one thing. I'm going to promote my stuff, but I also want to give a shout out to a couple of people who had me on their podcast that we talked about the scroll. Matt Bell was wonderful. I wasn't able to read the whole scroll when I went on there, but he and I talked about a lot of stuff, and he's a wonderful guy. I highly recommend him. My brother, Randall Carlson, we did a deep dive on the scroll with Randall. You have to understand, Randall is a geologist like me. He's a Freemason like me, and he's a Minnesotan like me. So Randall is a close friend, and I love him dearly. And so he was the first one that we did the podcast with. But the other podcast we did actually I did afterwards, but didn't come out until the same day as Randall's. And that was the Y-Files podcast with AJ Gentile. And if you haven't seen the Y-Files podcast, that's probably the one I would recommend above them all. He is a super smart guy. He's a very wonderful guy. We got along great. We did a 3.5-hour podcast. The final 40 minutes is about the scroll, and it was really good stuff. The other podcast I would recommend is Aubrey Marcus, a very spiritual guy, has a big following, and we did 2 podcasts, one before we deciphered the scroll and released it, and then one after. So those are 4 podcasts I would recommend. My YouTube channel, I'm also on Twitter, Facebook. I don't even know where else we are, but you can check me out there. My website is scottfwolter.com. And if you want a signed copy of any of my books, go there and I'll take care of it for you. You could probably get it for a couple bucks cheaper on Amazon, but I don't care wherever you go. My latest book is called The Greatest Templar Tale Never Told, the Sinclair Weems Journals. And I got to tell you, it has nothing to do with the scroll. It's a completely different set of documents than the Cremona material that we've been talking about, but it essentially tells the same story. It's consistent and cohesive and I think conclusive that it tells the same story of how the Templars were put down in 1307, hid treasures over in North America that were recovered by our founding fathers, all Freemasons. They were all Freemasons, and they used that money to help fund the revolution and establish that sanctuary we now call the United States of America, that we're celebrating the 250th anniversary, but it really started 900 years ago.
All right. So one of the things I wanted to ask and get into real quick is, were you born in Minnesota? Or are you a Minnesota native all your life? Like since you were, I know we talked a little bit about it. Okay. Where are you from?
Yeah, my dad was in the Strategic Air Command, and he was stationed in Homestead, Florida, when he met my mother, who was visiting her aunt. My mother's Canadian. She was born and raised in Lindsay, Ontario, Canada. So I'm half Canadian, half American. But they got married. They had me. And so I was born in Homestead, Florida, which is just south of Miami, Florida, right on the coast. And then Dad got hired by Northwest Airlines to be a commercial pilot. And then their headquarters is in Minneapolis. So that's when we moved to Minnesota. I was about a year and a half. But I was pretty much born, pretty much raised in Minnesota. I graduated from Chaska High School, which is right next to Chanhassen. If you've ever heard of Prince and Paisley Park, that's in Chanhassen. So I moved to Chanhassen. I lived across the lake from Prince for 30 years. And then I told you I went to college at UMD on a football scholarship, played 4 years, and then I got my job in geology, and the rest is history, as they say.
So were you around in Minnesota for like the AWA wrestling? You remember AWA wrestling?
I do. And the Crusher.
The Crusher.
I got 1,000 stitches. I lost a gallon of blood. You remember those lines? That's the Crusher.
Yes. That was amazing.
Yeah, the Crusher, Vern Gagne and Baron
Jesse
von
Ventura?
Raschke with the claw.
Yeah, Baron von
Hell yeah, I
Raschke.
remember that stuff.
Yeah.
Baron von Raschke. Hell yeah, I
Now,
remember those guys.
you were in Minnesota when Jesse Ventura was governor?
Hello.
Have you ever
yes.
met Jesse?
In fact, yes, I met Jesse, but it was during a touch football game right after I got out of college. He
Okay.
played for a team with the Hawk and what was the other guy's name?
The
they
Animal?
had the Hawk and
Animal?
and we used to play touch football.
Yeah.
What?
Hawk and
Hawk
Animal,
Yeah,
the Road
yeah.
Warriors.
Yeah, I played touch football with those guys,
Oh,
and
that's
when they
awesome.
would train, they had the makeup on. I remember one time we played them; they still had the goddamn makeup on. And
They were big
I'm
guys,
not
weren't
making
they?
this up.
They were big.
Yeah, we played at Parade over by Parade Stadium, right outside of downtown Minneapolis. You know who our quarterback was on my touch football team? And I'll tell you what, this wasn't touch football, man. This was fucking tackle. These guys, it was tough. They changed the rules because it got so rough. Guys were throwing punches and we get in fights, and it was tough. But you remember Bud Grant,
No.
the head football coach of the Minnesota Vikings back in the days in the 60s and the 70s? He went to 4 Super Bowls. Come on.
A little before my time.
Yeah.
Well, one of his sons was my best friend. He played quarterback for us up at UMD. And I was in college, and I got to know Bud we became very good friends. In fact, Bruce died about 8-9 years ago, brain cancer, and Bud outlived his son. Bud died about 3-4 years ago at 95. But boy, I'll tell you what, he was, you hear about all these famous people and how great they are and all this stuff. And then you find out behind closed doors they were assholes or they weren't the great people that you heard about, right? Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you something. Bud Grant, behind closed doors, was everything you ever heard about him. The great legend, the brilliant mind, and he was more than that. He was so wonderful. And let me tell you a quick Bud story. So Bruce dies of brain cancer. It was horrible. It was a huge funeral, and that December 31st is Bruce's birthday. I was the best man in his wedding. I get a call on my phone. Bud Grant. I answer the phone. I'm with some people down in Missouri, and I dropped them off. We were going to have dinner. I said, guys, I got to take this call. I said, hey, Bud, what's up? How you doing, Scott? And we talked for 20 minutes. He didn't even mention Bruce's name. But I knew why he was calling, because it was his son's birthday, and he knew that I would know that. And we talked about stuff. The next year, phone rings on December 31st. Scott, how's it going? We talk. Third year, phone rings, same thing. Fourth year, calls me a week before Bruce's birthday. Scott, I want you to come over. I got this pot. I want you to authenticate it. Like I can authenticate ceramic. I can't, right? I went over there. We talked for 2 hours. And it was wonderful. And then the following spring, he passed at 95.
Oh, wow.
He was just a wonderful guy, and I got to give a shout out. I got one more Bud story, real quick. You'll love this. So this is in our college days. They had a basketball court in their backyard, and we used to play basketball all the time, and it was a wrestling match because Bruce had 3 brothers, right? And his older brother Mike was the cheapest bastard I ever played against, throwing elbows. He ended up being a coach for a local high school, won 13 state championships.
Wow.
That's Mike Grant. That's Bud's son. That's pretty impressive.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
so we're playing basketball. We come in the house, and Bud's, Bruce's mom gives us water. We're sitting on the couch, and Bud's watching TV. Now, you got to remember, this is Bud Grant. He's a legend in Minnesota. Seriously. And so I'm talking on the couch, and we're talking, and Bud's in front of us, and I'm yelling loud. I talk loud. And all of a sudden, Bud turns around and he goes, Scott! And I went, oh, shit. What? He looks at me, and he's got these piercing eyes. When you get a chance, look him up. And he just looked at me, and he said this: you never learn anything when you're talking. You know what I said after that? Nothing.
That
He
was
was,
fantastic.
he's, if you ask me to pick one of the most impressive people, the number one most impressive person I've ever met in my life, besides Janet, would be Bud.
Yeah, I just looked him up. I'll look that and read
Yeah.
that later. Yeah.
Oh, Scott.
I'm not going to tell you the story, but I sold his Hall of Fame jacket, gold jacket. I
That's pretty
sold
cool.
it to a collector for
Okay.
Bud.
Nice.
I'll tell you that story sometime too. I got Bud's story. I was there when he was in the Hall of Fame. I listened to his speech. I was bawling like everybody else. But anyway, I digress.
So, Scott, if they were to ever make a movie about your life, who's going to play you?
Well, they won't sell a lot of tickets, but oh fuck, I don't know. You know what? I don't. I
The questions get weirder after this.
I don't know. I know, but I didn't expect that. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I love Harrison Ford, and not because he's, Indiana Jones. I love the Indiana Jones movies, but he's too old, Wait a minute. I'm going to be that old someday too, hopefully. I don't know. They'll find somebody. I really don't know.
All right.
Maybe a younger Richard Gere.
I don't know, man. You caught me off guard on that one, but I don't know. Just somebody that you can't be afraid to get dirty, and he can't be. I try to be respectful of people, but the old ball player in me comes out, and I just can't help it, man.
I'm
Can't
thinking
help it.
Chris Evans.
Oh yeah, yeah. Chris Evans was. Yeah.
I'm definitely.
I don't know him.
Oh, Captain America.
Oh, okay.
Chris Evans played
All
Captain
right.
America. If you watch the Knives Out movie, he's in the Knives Out movies. He's in the very
Okay.
first one, in everything. So he's a wonderful, wonderful actor.
Okay, so his name is Chris Evans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing it down. I'm gonna have Janet look it up.
Yep.
Right. Well, you know what? You know, I do plan on, I've written a number of books, and not all my books have been about like the runestone and history and the Templars and all that. I've written books about agates. That's our state gemstone. I'm a big collector of those. I've written 3 books on those. I've written concrete stuff and other stuff. But someday I am going to do a biography because I have been through some crazy shit, no doubt about it. And I like reading biographies. One of the most interesting biography I ever read was on a guy named Arthur Sinclair. Now, Arthur Sinclair, you guys know that before our system of government was set up, that was patterned after the Iroquois Nation system of government. Ben Franklin was the one that instituted that, and he sat with them and learned about their system of government that has these separation of powers, right? But before we had a president of the Continental Congress. And we had 14 presidents of the Continental Congress. Arthur Sinclair was one of them. Arthur Sinclair is the guy who taught George Washington military strategy. He was a Scottish military general. And, George Washington lost 8 battles in a row until Arthur Sinclair stepped in and taught him how to be a general. Anyway, there's a really interesting thing in that foreword. It said, the author said, there are over 1,000 books written about George Washington. This is the 4th about Arthur Sinclair that you'll find. And he was the one that taught, George Washington, who's heralded as this military genius. He's the one that taught him how to be a military general.
Wow.
Wow. Do you one of the things that before when you were talking about when you brought the Joshua scroll back with you on the airplane or whatever, when you find something like that, how do you transport stuff like that? Obviously, you had probably had it with you in the carry-on bag, right? I mean, you probably didn't want anyone to.
Oh, you mean after? You mean
Yeah, like
after
when you
we got
find stuff like
the-
that, like, and you discover things. How do you
Dude,
do that?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. So that in that case, I remember we unrolled everything, and I started looking at the letters. I'm like, "That's Theban, and this is this, and that's I've seen that. I recognize that." And then I realized we're out in the damn woods. What if it starts to rain? It was a
Yeah.
perfect day. And I'm like, we got to get out of here, right? We got to get this in plexiglass.
Yeah.
And so, I just put it in trusty. I rolled it back up kind of the way it was already rolled up. I put it in trusty, and then we flew back, and we went right to the Doug, who's right in the building next door. Doug and I went there. We measured it out. We laid the pages out. The guy, what is this? Oh, it's just some stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I was still processing what we had found. So then when we eventually flew home, I had Trusty and I carried it onto the airplane. And they opened it up and they looked at it. They didn't know what the hell it was. They didn't care. And I just brought it home. But now it's in a vault, I can tell you that.
Yeah. I just figured nobody ever asks that kind of question. Like, how do you transport something like that? And no, you don't ever hear those kind of questions. So, and I never
Well,
hear the answers.
I will say this. Well, you know what? It just occurred to me, we did talk about possibly driving back instead of flying, so we wouldn't have to go through security. And then I thought of it, what are they going to do? Oh, you've got the Yeshua scroll. No, nobody gonna know. Nobody knows, right?
They're probably like, what the
But
hell
we
is this?
thought about it, and we did think about driving back, but we didn't.
Yeah. We do have like a little lightning round. We call it rapid fire smash, and so we're going to be doing that in a minute to end the interview. But before we do that, I don't know if Josh has any more questions, but I know I have another question. Josh, do you want to ask another question first?
No, I've been absolutely mesmerized by you, dude.
Have you ever is there one mystery that you used to believe in, now you think it's nonsense? Like, when you're younger, or maybe when you first started doing this stuff, you kind of you maybe new evidence came and now you don't believe in it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I call it as I see it. And, if I don't have, there are many times people say, well, what do you think about this? I'll just say, look, it's something I haven't studied. And if I haven't studied it, I'm not going to just go out on a limb and say, oh, that's probably fake, because that's not fair to the subject matter. But I will say this. Many years ago, I didn't think much of Bigfoot. I didn't think much of extraterrestrials and aliens, not because I didn't believe it. It just wasn't my jam. It just wasn't in my wheelhouse. I could take it or leave it. I just said, I don't know. And I got to be honest, I was very skeptical of Bigfoot. But now that I've learned a lot more, I'm not saying that I believe in it yet. I need more evidence to be thoroughly convinced, but I've seen enough now that I went from being more on the negative side to absolutely in the middle. Show me more and I'll go there. As far as the ETs go, I wasn't in the negative side, I was in the neutral side, and now I'm here. I'm not convinced by what the government has released, the so-called disclosure that we've had so far. I'm underwhelmed, to say the least, but I know they have more. So, but I'm waiting to see it. But I do think it's more likely than not that extraterrestrials are real and that they're here. If the scroll is real, which I would say it's more likely is than not, and I don't know how we're ever going to get confirmation on that. But understanding the Templar tradition like I do, we don't screw around with stuff like this. Mm-hmm. And this thing was very well taken care of. So I would say that it's probably pretty much 100% that the ETs are here and they're just waiting for to be introduced.
What's really funny is you actually just answered two of the questions that we were gonna do in rapid fire smash. Because our very first question was going to be about Bigfoot.
Yeah. I'm not saying no. I just need more evidence to go there.
I'm right
not
there with
yet,
you,
though.
man. I'm right there with you on that. I've been in the woods.
Okay.
I live in Connecticut, New England, and I mean, I've
Right.
been all over New England, but I've been places in the woods where I feel like something's watching me, and there was nobody around, and just
Yeah.
you never know, you never know. But
Well, you know something? Just to piggyback on that, we did 2 episodes, and we did 49 episodes of America Unearthed in 4 seasons, and 2 of them were about Bigfoot, essentially about Bigfoot. And I will tell you this. There was one guy in particular, when I interviewed him, and he took me out in the woods and he told me the story of what happened. I can tell you 100% that I believe in all my heart that that guy believes what he saw was Bigfoot.
yep,
You follow me?
yep, totally.
This guy was not bullshitting me. I don't know what he saw. Only he knows what he saw. What he described was amazing, and I believe that he believes what he saw was Bigfoot. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
totally. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of people who claim they've seen them, but when you talk to somebody and you really like talk to them, you can tell if somebody really believes in that what they saw is what they saw. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep, definitely.
All right, so we'll let you take the first question, John. And actually, before we do this, is there anything else
Okay.
you want to promote or talk about?
No, not really. I can tell you that we have a lot more fun stuff that's coming. Maybe we can do another podcast another time. We can talk more about Don and the work he's doing. Don he's one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. He's the guy that all of these documents were bequeathed to, okay, by his best friend, Bill. And even though I never met Bill, he's an interesting cat, let me tell you. And I have a new book that's
Oh,
coming
sorry.
out. Go ahead.
Could we interview you both sometime? Like maybe both of you guys would come on?
Well,
and talk?
he's been a little bit. You got to catch him on the right day.
Right.
He's. But I think it's possible. I think what we want to do is we want to have a sit down with us, with people he knows,
Yeah.
and kind of do it one time, and he's agreed to do that. But I think after that he'll be more open to other people interviewing him.
Yeah.
You got to understand the work he did. They took people out, and some of their people were taken out. And he's not very trusting. He's seen the worst of the human element.
Yeah.
So you got to earn his trust.
Totally understand.
So I think that there's a good possibility that'll happen. So let's just leave it at that.
All right. What were you saying real quick
the
about
way-
a book?
Yeah. So all the stuff that Don and I have done together with other people, but primarily Don and I and Janet, I have a book that's coming out, but it's gotten so big we're going to do it in 2 volumes because it's approaching 800 pages.
Oof.
That's how much stuff we have not published yet.
Wow.
We have gone on other hunts in the woods and we have found other stuff. I have not said a word about it yet. So there's more coming.
That's
And
all right.
right.
those books, the first volume is going to come out before the end of the year.
All right. We look forward to that. All right. The way the rapid fire smash section will commence is we will ask questions back and forth. You just answer as quickly as you can. You can still do a sentence. You don't have to do just a yes or a no. You can just do a quick explanation of your answer. And Josh is going to go first for the first question.
All right, so
All right, bring it, guys.
all right. What was the one?
Agnes.
The Loch Ness Monster, real or not?
Unsure. I have been to Loch Ness a few times, and I have looked into Nessie, and I've seen some interesting evidence. But if you told me I had to say yes or no, it would probably be no.
Okay.
The theory of Atlantis. Do you think Atlantis existed?
Well, yes, I do. I know it existed, but Atlantis is not a place. It's a high culture that existed prior to the Younger Dryas, and frankly, a lot of the Templar secrets go back to Atlantis. I could talk about in depth, but Atlantis was a high culture. It wasn't a place. They had many places, and but yes, it absolutely existed. Yes.
All right. Ghosts, real or not?
Well, I guess you can get into different definitions, but are there apparitions of of souls or entities of people that were in human form at one time and are now in a different state? I would say, yeah, I think so.
All right.
Most overrated mystery.
Oh, Jesus. Montezuma's treasure. How about that?
All right. Most
I hate
underrated
going-
mystery.
I got to be honest with you guys. When I was doing the show, I hated the treasure hunts that have been done by every show imaginable, and we're just redoing it in a different way. And I think frankly, I think we did a decent job of it.
Yeah.
But I just was not a fan of the treasure hunts that had been done 50 times by other people.
All right. Well, most underrated mystery.
Kensington Runestone.
Nice self plug.
What is one place in the
Well,
world?
I believe that. I
Yeah.
believe that.
No, I do too. So,
What's one place in the world you still desperately want to investigate that you haven't?
This will sound weird because most people have assumed that I've been there, but I've never been to Egypt.
oh wow. All right.
I'd love to go there as well someday.
All right.
That's where I want to go.
The biggest holy crap moment of your career.
I've been all around it, but never there. Pardon me?
Biggest holy crap moment of your career.
Say it again. I missed it.
Biggest holy crap moment
Finding the
of your
scroll.
career. All right.
Biggest holy shit moment was the Yeshua scroll for sure.
All right. All right. And I'm going to go next again. Who was the best James Bond? There is no
Sean
wrong
Connery.
answer to this one.
I know, but it was Sean Connery, and I think, look, there were a lot of good ones over the years, and I'm definitely a Bond fan, but Sean Connery, man, and I know there was a lot of sexism and stuff that wouldn't fly today, but that's part of the reason why I think it's so amazing. He was the original and the only one, as far as I'm concerned.
What was the best Indiana Jones movie, in your opinion?
The first one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the final question, and this is also does have a correct answer to it. So I want to see if you get this right. Does
Well,
pineapple
okay, guys.
does pineapple belong on pizza?
I will say I've never had a piece of pizza with pineapple on it, and I'm not looking forward to that day either. I love the hottest sauces that you can put on a pizza, and that goes in the other direction, so I got to say no.
Oh man.
All right. You are the first person we've had who's gotten that question correctly.
Well.
So thank you for that.
I guess the bad guys win sometime.
Oh,
Bad guys win sometime, I guess.
well, I'm just saying, man. I love the hot stuff, but Pepper Palace is. I'm home when I'm there. They got all the hot sauce. I love it.
Yeah. I'm a big buffalo chicken fan.
Yep.
Actually, Josh loves buffalo chicken. as
buffalo
well.
chicken.
When
Me
I went
too,
to
man.
Hawaii a few years ago for my honeymoon, I went to Maui, and we had over there they don't call it pineapple. They don't call it Hawaiian pizza. They call it sweet pig. And we went, and it was really thick crust, and it was baked in a, I think it was Lahaina pizza. But since then, those nasty fires,
I've been there.
Took the whole town out, and unfortunately, but we went to the place before, and it was like a big, huge, thick pan, and it had it's just the best pizza I ever had, and it had pineapple on it and ham, and it was really good. But some people don't think
I'm not
it
saying
belongs.
that you
Some people
can't do it.
I'm just
I'm
saying
not
you're
saying
wrong if you
can't
do it.
Just don't put it on my pizza.
Exactly.
You gotta
Keep
try
it the
it.
hell away from me.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and I
This is fun.
This
was
awesome.
awesome, man. Thank you so much. You were I've been absolutely mesmerized by you for the past hour, so thank you. And your YouTube videos keep me company at work.
Well, I'm glad it worked out. Well, we're going to keep them coming, and we got a lot of really good stuff coming. So hopefully people will enjoy it. And, let's do it again. And I'll keep you posted on Don. But this was fun. And it was, hey, listen, it took us a while to make it happen, but you persevere, it'll happen.
All right.
Yeah, I apologize for the technical issues from
Yes.
before.
All right. Well,
No worries, man. I know all about that. It's no problem at all. We got her done.
That'll do it for Double Axe Handle Smash podcast. Till next time, I'm Johnny O,
I'm Josh-O.
and we're out.
Thank you for listening to the show. Join us on our YouTube channel. Double Axe Handle Smash, as well as